get started. First, we stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is consent agenda. Of course, I have motion to approve.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Any board comment? Any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. Moving on to the 26 draft township budget.
Sure, so it is everything that was represented to you at the array of meetings we had, the workshop meetings and other sessions. I didn't intend to present anything. If you want me to go over anything, I can. You have the executive summary. The first part of that is just generally a page describing how your 9 funds work. Part 2 is what's different this year to the next. Those are the key highlights. Part 3 would be the summary of the 2 most significant sources of revenue. So that's EIT and millage. And then I have 2 attachments. One is that summary that I used last time, that matrix form. And then the 5th one is the millage. That's a very revealing image. It shows your pattern. It shows you your changes to the pattern. It shows your movement going, reducing the millage. So I can answer questions. I can describe the aspects of it, of each fund that are different, but we did that at the last meeting. So I don't have really anything to add beyond what I said at the last meetings.
For the ABCs was, I know that Anna's here. There were some questions last time for them about, to explain some of the things that was on your asks. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the primary thing for us is getting a professional historic resources survey done. We have been driving it around in our cars for the last, 10 years and doing them. They're not professional, they're not on the state's forms, they're just basic documentation. So to get with a professional survey, we will get a lot of we'll get, like what's really important, what's medium important, what's not so important. We will be able to get, do we have opportunities for historic districts? Because a historic district can increase the value of properties. It can help people get funding, it can from the state. And the state is actually working on getting more funding for preservation. They have, I think they have they had 5 million, now they're up to 20 million. So they're on a roll to keep getting more money that they can send down to the communities. It's a document that you need to do a comprehensive plan. It's a document that we need in case we need to do any zoning ordinance changes. It's a foundational document for a historic.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Because there was a list of things. I think we have to go over those specific questions that we had.
Yeah.
Do we have that list anywhere?
Is that back from, is that in this one, was that back in the list?
Previous one would have had that, and then I believe the HC reps that were here left with an itemized list of what they
Right.
needed to present to you.
Right.
So this was one of the big asks.
Right.
This was, and I know that there was discussion about a little more of an explanation concerning that. There was also discussion about I know Stacy still is out of the country, but there was discussion about the $30,000 ask for 250. And let me go back.
Yeah, I'd like to see that list and we could step through them address them holistically and so on and so forth. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to make sure we don't just do one thing at a time.
Yeah, my recollection is the same, is that there were a list of items. Those items didn't seem to add up either in terms of the list that we were provided. And that, so we needed more of a comprehensive explanation for all of the
Yeah.
asks that we were being given. Although this is a good start. I mean, this was one of the items, right? What is a $90,000 historical asset survey get the township? And you kind of touched upon some of those points. And so I'd like to hear more about that.
Also, there are VPP grants available, and I have, I just got the email, of a person that I can reach out to find out the potential likelihood of us getting one of those, but they start in the spring, or March, I think they start.
Okay, so I've got the list in front of me. So there's memberships for $200, I think that's fine, subscription, and stop me if I'm wrong.
This is the one.
Subscriptions for 105, then I think that's fine. It says consulting projects 3 at 1,000 for $40,000, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Susan, is there a way to put that up?
And
That's not.
that is this, that is the.
No, there's a separate item, historic asset survey, $90,000.
It's
Oh, okay, that is not on what I turned in.
Okay, so I'm not comfortable approving $40,000 for consulting projects, we don't even know what they are.
Okay. I mean,
Particularly when it says 3 at 1,000 and then it's 40,000, that doesn't make sense.
okay.
Okay, historical markers, 7,000.
We do need a few thousand in case we need to call in a consultant for something. Usually it's an emergency type thing,
Okay,
and we have been getting that in the past.
Does the 40,000 cover that historical survey?
No.
Professional
No.
survey?
no, that's the 90,000.
So that's the
Yeah, that's
90,000, so it's
90, yeah.
separate, okay.
So let's keep going.
Go
So
ahead.
we got a hold on the 40,000, so there's 3 historical markers, 2 at 3,500, that makes sense to me, I'm good with that. CCHPN picnic, $100, that's fine. So now we're at the historic asset survey, 90,000, we can come back to that. And it could be as low as 30,000 if we get the VPP, right? Education 500, I'm okay with that, contribution to site groups, I'm not sure what that is.
It's actually Tredyffrin Easttown Historical Society, I guess that could be a membership.
Right, it
Same
should be
thing.
memberships, yeah, make memberships $305, and we're good to go, right?
Right.
Design guidelines, 7,000, what's that?
So, there are I believe I put a link to that in there. East Bradford Township has created, guidelines for the township, for residents to be able to, use. They have given us permission to use it as a basis, but we would need it modified. So that's what we were.
Okay, if you could only do one or the other, historic or design guidelines, which would you do next year?
What did you say?
If you could only do historic asset survey or design.
Survey.
Okay,
That's a
I thought,
no-brainer.
right,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, so I'm like, let's not worry about design guidelines next year. American 250, 30,000 seems huge.
so, and I don't have
You haven't gotten anything.
I don't have all the specifics for that. I asked for a report that I didn't get. In my conversations, there's like T-shirts and banners and things, little, pens or, that kind of giveaway stuff. One of the projects is these 6x6, so 4x4 posts that will be painted and installed, and there's a driving tour, so it's more incidental kind of stuff.
30,000 incidental.
I added it in because it had to get added in somewhere, and that's what I was given, so. And I did not get the report I was asking for with dates and what we're doing and when we're doing it and how we're doing it and what we need and where we are.
Right, so I would be okay doing a $10,000 party for the township on July 4th. I'm not okay
This
with
is-
30,000.
This is stuff that's gonna be going on all year, for a year.
Don't we get corporate sponsorships for some of this stuff?
I like that.
She's smart
Um,
too.
I do not, I know that there's some for the picnic, but I don't know if there's any for others.
And I think that's what we should work on, is getting some corporate sponsorship instead of spending $30,000.
I think we need to know more from Stacy as to
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
Because it's really not fair of her to throw that at you and then not be here to explain or give you an explanation, breakdown of it.
So that's what I was gonna ask, can we just have it broken down? Like, maybe it's all well accounted for and it all makes sense and it's fair, and we all agree with the spending, we just need it broken down a little bit, itemized, you know?
But not, we can't do it tonight.
No, we can't,
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay,
okay. So
so as I look through this.
I will ask for my report again.
Is anybody working on corporate sponsorships?
We don't know.
I do not know.
That might be a good idea.
So if I look through this, I would say the 40,000 should be 3,000 for that $1,000 consulting report projects. The 90,000, I'm 100% for, we pushed this off for too long, we need to get this done. I say with the 7,000 we can do later, and the 30,000 at this point, I don't think we can approve.
Just needs more information, like.
Yeah.
That's not my take on it, I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. Susan, you're gonna go?
No, that's my granddaughter.
Okay, sorry. So my concern is, one, are we duplicating efforts? Because it's mine, Parks and Rec is also involved in 250, right?
Yes,
So maybe it makes sense to kind of synergize, the two committees and have you guys talk to each other.
they
That
are,
might help direct you. Sorry, go ahead.
they are talking together.
Okay,
They are talking together.
okay. Then I think for us, then we probably need more information before we can go along with a $30,000 ask. It's yeah, I think it's a great celebration. I think it's going to be great, whatever we do, but I just want to make sure our costs are certain before we add them to the budget. At least that's my perspective. Thanks.
Don, in terms of procedure, is it your intent to have the board ready to act on a preliminary budget at the next meeting on the 17th?
No, preliminary budget tonight. If they can make that change, they can make that change now, correct?
Yes.
And, or they could make it at the next meeting. You both, if your items that you're sure of, you can make those changes tonight. Items that you're not sure of, you can make at the first meeting in December. It'll all be on the scale that's appropriate.
And procedurally, yeah, you still have some flexibility, so once you advertise the preliminary budget, you cannot increase expenditures or revenue by more than 10% whole budget.
Mhm.
And then no more than 25% in a major category, which is a little bit of a term of art, but this would, I think this probably qualifies as a major category area, so you just wanna make sure you're in the game of 25% of where you wanna be. So you don't have to re-advertise.
Don, are any of these in the budget?
No, well, the sign, all the little incidentals are gonna be in the budget as part of the operating money.
What about the 7,000 for the signs? No,
The 7,000 for the design guidelines is not there, the 40,000 for the consulting is not there, the 30,000 for the America 250 is not there.
what about the historical markers?
Yes, they're there, because they're just an extension of what you're doing already.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so if you want more markers, then you gotta put
No,
more,
no, no,
but you
no.
put 3 in this year, so that's in there.
I don't know about you guys, I'd be okay adding $3,000 for consulting projects. I would be okay adding the 90,000 and nothing else.
Yeah, I think the survey is something that you've been wanting for a long time, and I think it's really important to
It's
the
a
township.
need.
Yes, it serves the needs of the township. Alex, I think you agreed on that last time as well. Eric and Susan, do you have any comment?
Yeah, was there also a grant component to this that may reduce that price?
there's a VPP grant.
And sorry, go ahead.
I think it says 30,000 if VPP is awarded,
That'll be 60,000.
60,000.
And there's 2 opportunities for VPP next year.
And Anna, can you like maybe run down the benefits, you know, in getting this asset survey done? I know we've touched upon it in the past, but I don't recall much of that. So you kind of started going into that spiel. If you could maybe provide some illumination there, that'd be really helpful for me.
Right now,
Yeah,
Sure.
all right, I'll just go through my notes. Excuse me if I repeat anything.
It's okay.
It's a foundational document. Needed to make informed decisions. It will inform any updates to ordinances. And it's not something that needs to be redone. It may be added to, but not redone. The potential for tax incentives for businesses, including, rental businesses like apartments and things like that. It's needed for compliance for section 106 of the 1966 Department of the Interior, basically historic preservation law, which section 106 means that any project that has federal money would have to get a section 106 review. And that would be indicated by what's on the survey. It helps communities identify, helps people with pride. I also think it's something that should be on the website. There's a lot of talk right now about heritage tourism. Landmarks, we are getting like a lot of play right now on Waynesboro for next year. It will let us know if we have the potential for any historic districts, and which in turn increase property values, and they help with economic revitalization of business areas. It's educational. It would help people understand more of what they have, what they're sitting on, what they've invested in.
So Anna, if I may, my understanding, because I was a liaison for a little while, Sean, you're a liaison now. You guys have split up this map resource project among all the board members, and you all basically took, I'm gonna take this corner, draw the map over here, I'm gonna take this corner, draw the map, and you guys all kind of set apart, driving, documenting, putting all that in the list together.
Right.
The main problem, as I understand it, is the inconsistency between the people who did the surveys. There's no one single person who did an overarching kind of look through it, and you as the chair, you've kind of done that, but it's, in my opinion, it's too much work for a volunteer to do. It just, and you guys have expanded the board and you've done a ton of work, and I appreciate that, but in my opinion, it always has seemed like you do need a professional to at least check the work that's already been done, and then overall fill in the gaps and make sure that it's consistent.
And categorizing.
Right.
That's something that I think is really important.
And we're not just doing this just so that we have a record of all of the historic properties in here, like we have this in the zoning ordinance as well, because it factors into when you can do demolition, it factors into when you can do renovations to the property. So we have codes and ordinances on the books that are dependent on this survey.
Right.
That in my opinion is sometimes inconsistent and incomplete. It's not to the fault of the volunteer board, it's just too much work for any volunteer organization to undertake as a cohesive project, which is why it's taken 8 to 10 years and it's still kind
Well,
of
we
in a
keep
state of
doing
flux.
it, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, in my opinion, it made sense for the last couple of years that you come before the board and requested that you have a consultant come in and do essentially that work. And it makes a lot of sense, and in my opinion, I think we absolutely need to fund it. So if it's $90,000, we can get a grant, wonderful. If not, we have to pay the whole 90 grand. I think it's a small price to pay. It's literally in our ordinances. If we have to use this document, I think it's reckless for us not to get a consultant.
I would put one requirement on it, and that is, let's not just create a document, there's something like PA share.
Yeah.
It should end up somewhere in a repository so that anybody can access it and it's maintained over time.
Yeah, that, I wanted to make sure that that was part of the deliverable, that it's on PH, that, yeah,
Okay,
it's on PH, but, and I also think it should be on our website.
Right, okay, good. Just grows old over time.
Sorry, so that does answer a lot of my questions, and, I think for me, it sounds like doing the asset survey, historic asset survey, opens the door for opportunities for grants, increasing property values, things of that nature. This is more of a like consultant fee question. Do we price shop at all? To me, the 90,000 seems really high. Even if we get the grant, it's still $60,000. Is it because it's like this consultant's the only game in town, or do we comparison shop? Like, how did we get there?
So I have not actually comparison shop, figuring that we have to do an RFP for this. I have talked to consultants. I've talked to at least 3 of them at length. The prices have increased a lot in the past few years. And my guess is, I don't know exactly why, but my guess is because there's more technology involved, and that there's, the cost of everything is just ridiculous. So these have gone up quite a bit. Bye-bye.
We do the RP, it could be less, right? It could be more, it could be less. You're just guessing at 90,000 at this point. You don't have a proposal in front of you.
I do not. But I've talked to people and told them, like, this is what we're looking for, and they can only throw out a number.
Right.
So, yeah, that's what I have, because
Okay.
Fine.
I'm not gonna go getting
I
all
would,
that information.
I would like to see the proposal. I would like to see the proposal and just, I'm interested to know if there's any choices about, can you pick and choose, or is this just one big thing? Because it seems like $90,000 is a really high number.
So we can ask for whatever deliverables we want. We don't have to do PA
Right.
share, but I think that's a high value
Right,
item.
I think the way it's gonna work is if you get approval to spend the money, you will put together a RFP, a request for proposal.
Sure,
You will send that out to 6 or 7
firms.
We'll do through some form, we'll get back responses, then
Right.
you'll decide which one is.
Exactly.
Yes, and some may come back as 120 and we'll say, we can't afford that.
Right.
And others may come back at 60 and we'll say, good for you.
Well, one guy actually told me that, he's like, we're gonna be the highest. And I'm like, okay, that's great, thank you.
Right.
But, but he talked to me. I got information from him.
Right.
To me, this kind of feels like we're doing it backwards. Like, if we pony up $90,000 in our budget, isn't every bid that we're going to get be $90,000 because they know we've just budgeted for that? Like, I have some concern that we're not going to get fairly priced here if we proceed in this manner versus getting the proposals first, then coming to get a budget like that. To me, it seems like we're doing it backwards. I think it's it's a good idea, but I think we're just doing it the wrong way. Like, I think you need to come here with proposals instead of like, here's a number we think we might need. But that's my take.
I was asked to get a number.
And have you spoken to, like, for different, for example?
Yeah.
Did they do an asset survey, do you know?
They did one a long time ago, and it basically is a null and void document at this point because, I don't know, some politics stuff that happened there. No, but there are other, a lot of townships have them. I mean, I talked to on Saturday, the head of the historic preservation guy from the Chester County Planning Commission. He's like, you have to have one. And this is what his predecessors have told me. It's like a really
Yeah, I'm not
important,
arguing.
yeah.
I agree with you.
yeah, but no, Tredyffrin does not have one right now.
I didn't know if you had spoken to any other townships that, just to get an idea of cost.
I have not talked to any for that purpose. And it's all different because of what they want. what everybody wants.
Well, Andy or Don, is it, we're kind of like up against the wire here with timing, but is there a way we can, like, Anna can get proposals? That way we're not just like fumbling in the dark in terms of what we should budget for something that we don't know how much it costs.
I guess overall, if you have a surplus, in the general fund, as long as you have enough of a surplus after the first quarter, you can transfer otherwise unencumbered money. So you can't transfer from a special account like the library. Or if you have a separate line item for fire and EMS. But within the general fund after the first quarter, you can approve as a board a transfer. So if there's general room in the budget, that might be a way to do it during the year. The other way to do it is to pick some maybe lower number if to address Eric's concern. So it doesn't look like when you're out even putting together an RFP and getting initial ideas that there's a bigger number out on the street as a board, you're setting sort of a lower baseline. And then if you get a proposal that you say, the value of this is so great, as long as you're past the first quarter and you have unencumbered funds and other line items, you can transfer. So that might be one way to keep it moving.
Eric, does that answer your question? Do you think that we could proceed with the lower number?
Yeah, I mean, everything Andy said seemed to make sense to me. Like, I just want to make sure we don't get fleeced on this thing, you know, because they see a budget of $90,000, they're going to think that's what we're going to pay. I'd prefer fair bidding if we're going to do this, just to make sure we get the best price possible. And it might be $90,000. I mean, who knows what it'll be? But I do see the value in doing it. I just want to make sure that, you know, we're getting the best bang for our buck here.
So if you decide you want to do it, I think you as a group decide you want to do it, when you approve the budget tonight, that becomes, you know, you expressly indicate that. And then probably the best place to put it, it could go into the capital budget as a capital item, or it could go into the general fund as a dollar value in miscellaneous expense. You know, it's zero sum at this point, so it has to come out of, you have a modest surplus, which was your choice, because we talked about that. And then it would just reduce the modest surplus by whatever amount you put into it. So that would seem to be your choices. The first is this something you want? If it's something you want, then it's relatively technical and bureaucratic as to how we create it for you to have it.
Yes.
I definitely
Yeah,
want
it seems like yes. I think the consensus is yes. Eric, Susan?
I have more questions than answers at this point. I'm not sure that I can proceed with my belief that what we're getting and what we're paying for, it just seems very unclear to me.
If three of you think it's a good idea, that's all it takes. Then the next question is, how much money do you want to put in for it?
I'm good with the 90s, so anything 90 or, you know, I don't know what you guys think.
I understand Eric's concern, actually, so, that they can look at that amount and then.
But person A looks at that amount, so it's $90,000, they did 90, person B says we can do it for 72, they did 72, they win. Right? I hear you.
No, I understand, and I understand his concern as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
I think it's 100,000. I think you can hopefully either get a grant or do better with the RFP for the $90,000 estimate that we have right now. And then that 100,000 can probably help fund everything else if there's savings on that 90K.
Yeah, so the other thing to do is assume that we could get the VPP. and go under the 30,000.
Probably dangerous to assume that.
Right.
So what
I'm
kind of
just
like
putting
on the
that
staff
number.
side, you think you gotta, if this is valuable to you, then you do it, and then we'll do everything we can to get as much of it as. But I don't even know if you can do it without, can you, I don't know if you can start it if you can't finish it, that sort of thing. So my gut would my gut says, if you value it, you fund it, and then we'll do our best to figure out if you can get a grant.
And you will have some flexibility because it's not like you're buying a widget and bidding, it's a professional service. So if you don't like the prices from, and it can be, you know, it can be an informal request for proposals to, you know, the people that the historical commission knows are valid regional planners. And you can adapt, you know, you could have a menu and options. You could recraft it if you're not happy with the result. So just with professional services, it's as much about quality and comfort with the professional as it is the bottom line price. So that may help you adjust to the price that you want. You know, you'll have some flexibility. You're not stuck with a bid. Like you would be with like road paving.
Right, we don't have to take it, if we don't like it, we don't have to take the bid.
Correct, you could reject them all, and with professional services, it's easier to pick among them based on what you think is the quality of service.
We don't have to take the lowest bid.
Correct.
So I just need to understand, so we're not voting to choose this one company for $90,000, we're choosing to look into companies and choose the one that provides us with the services we want for the price we want.
Correct.
Okay.
Hopefully under $90,000.
The 90 is a capability, an outer limit of the capability.
Right.
I'd be fine with that.
From the staff side, we always want to fully fund projects of this scale and then seek grants, not the other way, because if you.
Understood.
Yeah, you don't want a budget transfer.
So the total list is 145,000. Like the consulting projects has the 40,000, but then it says 3 at 1,000. So if you add everything together. Without the $40,000, which I think might be a typo, it's the $145,000 total at the bottom.
The 145 was everything in that list, not including America's 250. So American 250 was,
In addition to that.
when it went to a PDF, it didn't capture that sort of stands alone.
Okay.
So the whole list is 175.
But some of this is already in the budget.
Yeah, some of this is already baked into your year-over-year.
The little things are in there, so.
Right.
You know, you've got 90,000 for a survey, that's a big thing, 30,000 for America 250, that's a big thing. 40,000 for consulting, that's a big thing, and 7,000 for design guidelines, that's a big thing.
Michael, didn't you say that consulting, you would do 3,000?
I would do 3,000.
There's a little line right after consulting projects. It says 3 at 1,000.
3 at 1,000.
I'm good with the 3 at 1,000, I wouldn't go for the 40,000.
Yeah.
So we wipe out the 40,000 instead, replace it with that 3 at 1,000, ends up at 125,000.
No, well, hold on, we're talking about Delta, right? What are we gonna add to the budget?
Yeah, so your one item is 90,000 for the survey.
Right,
There seems to be at least 3 of you that are comfortable with that. A second item is the design guidelines, which it sounds like there are 3 of you comfortable for $3,000.
no.
That's the consulting project.
Consulting projects for that. Then you have the design guidelines at 7, you have America 250 at 30,000. You don't need to talk about $105 contributions, you don't need to have a down vote on that. And
For all those
then
items,
your historic markers are embedded in your
Yeah.
existing budget.
so all those items are 130,000 that you just brought up. That's the
No,
sums,
no, there's 9,000 plus 3, 93,000 plus 7, 100,000
plus 30.
plus 30, 130. Okay, sorry.
Alright.
So I'm okay with the 90. I don't think we should do the 7,000 design guidelines, because I don't think the historic commission will have the capacity to do it. Sorry, I just don't think that, I think there's a lot to ask if you're gonna do this.
And did you just do that? Isn't that what Tom Committee did 2
Yeah.
years ago?
That was just for the Village of Berwyn. This
Okay,
is a
but-
more comprehensive document. And I did put a link in,
Mhm.
you can take a look at it, it's pretty cool. But I agree that that could wait until next year, it's not urgent like this is.
Right, so 90 plus 3,
123.
well, we don't know the 30 yet. We don't know what the 30 is.
You don't know what.
Yeah, I would not put the 30 in.
And it has to, three of you have to decide what you want in and pick a number, so right now it sounds like. It sounds like at least nobody has resisted the 90 and no one has resisted the 3. Nobody has endorsed anything else. So right now there seemingly is a capability to add 93,000 to the draft budget to do those 2 items. I'm not hearing anybody advocate for the other things. And you're not advocating against the America 250, it's just you don't know what it is. So you don't wanna put 30 grand in the budget for it.
You were saying the small subscriptions and things like that, that's already in there.
Yeah, we have, that was in their current, so.
So their current $6,000.
It has a current budget, it was enough to get that sort of stuff done. The same with the historic markers.
The 93, I'd be fine with that.
Sure.
Okay, so when the time, at the end of this, you're gonna get to somebody making a recommendation to, you know, advertise the draft budget to proceed with the procedural steps. You wanna add the 90,000 for the historic asset survey and the 3,000 for consulting. They'll get added to the HC line item, that's probably the best place to put it in the general fund. And then that's gonna decrease, you know, we had talked about this, was represented to you, that there would be a modest surplus. And it's gonna decrease the modest surplus unless you choose to take something else out. So, nobody is saying that they want this in at the expense of something else. What I'm hearing you say is you want this in, the only way it goes in is by decreasing that surplus. And you'll need 3 votes to do that when the time comes, so. All right, clear enough? Andy, anything to add procedurally, any?
No, I'm just keeping a list, so when you're ready to make a motion to advertise the preliminary budget. The question is additions or subtractions from Don's draft document in the agenda packet. So right now, it would be a motion to advertise the preliminary budget. And you would add 93,000 to the historical commission line.
So
Thus far.
before you do that, you wanna, because you got others that want.
You-
No,
At
I'm
the
not
end of
gonna
the
make a
process
motion.
of explaining my working list. right?
Yeah, no, I was not making a motion. I had another item that I wanted to bring up that's not historical commission related, but I didn't wanna cut off Anna or anybody else. We're not done with the HC.
And I know Andrew's here to talk about some fire items in particular, so he will wanna communicate with you.
No,
Do you wanna-
by all means,
Okay.
let's do fire if you want.
Great.
So
You're good.
am I
The
good to
hook.
go? Thank you.
You can
so
stick around for the
much.
fire presentation.
Thank
It's gonna be really a good one.
And just a reminder, you'll take public comment at the time you make a motion in a second when you get.
All right. So, we do have a budget. And some budget items to present. You have the packet, it's 22 pages long. I'm gonna talk to 2 pages. First, I just want to say I'm a bit discouraged that we're kind of at this. On this timeline, I would have hoped we could have presented these items previously, and maybe we can do that in the future. We really tried to start this process in July. We had a meeting set up with Tradifferent in July that got canceled. The EMF or the Fire and EMS Working Group met in August. We were not invited to that meeting. The Director of Fire and EMS went to that meeting. After that meeting, we were told how much money we were gonna get from the townships. We did not have a chance to plead our case. So we asked for a meeting. After that, in mid-September, we were told we could meet with the working group on October 23rd, month and a half later, which we did. We were told when we got to that meeting that we would have a half an hour to present our request, which we did. Unfortunately, we did not get through our 22-page packet in half an hour. We got probably 80 or 85% through it. And so I'm discouraged with the timeline. I'm discouraged with the lack of funding. a year ago, we were at Beaumont Elementary School and talking about the EIT. And that was squarely put on fire and EMS needs. No, nothing else was mentioned.
Hold on,
That's not true.
that's not my.
That is true.
I did not say
Was at
that.
that meeting?
That is
I know,
not true.
that means
Police was
twice.
mentioned, library was mentioned, I specifically talked about it in my speech to the township.
It was square.
Yours was, fire and EMS was mentioned as well.
Yes,
Fire and
Frank
EMS.
Ness was definitely mentioned, I did not say that.
Yes, you did.
No, I had 5 things that I listed. I don't remember what they were. but
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I'm surprised by the lack of funding, given the EIT that's coming in next year. Third thing is communication. I think communication should be much better between the working group and the fire companies. I'm just speaking for Berwyn. I don't want to speak for Paoli or Radnor. Not being included in a meeting about our budget and how much we're gonna get, I just think that's poor. And we would like to be included in those meetings. We want to be treated as a partner. We want to collaborate. We want to share our expertise with the townships and help to build the TEFD into whatever that's going to be. We would like some say in that. I mean, the agreement we signed at the end of 2023, the intermunicipal agreement said it's going to be a collaborative effort. It hasn't been collaborative to this point. You know, the townships are talking about hiring a fire chief. That's not in the agreement. It's an administrator. We haven't even been asked about that. We kind of know something about what fire chiefs do. So, I mean, those are just some of the examples that we want a seat at the table. We want to help. We want to be part of it. We want to be treated as a partner. So I say all that. I'm gonna show you 2 pages of kind of where we are for our forecast 2026 budget. And some of the asks that we have for 2026 that we did not get a chance to present in August. So John, or I'm not sure who has control, but page 7. You would go to that, please. So if you can read that. So this is the fire company. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Fire company forecast budget for 2026. You see that middle column there, budget in green. We are projecting approximately $400,000 loss in their operations. The total X the capital there, 452, is that projected loss, including these rental properties we own, which I think you all probably know that, over on Berwyn Avenue. We are proposing using funds from apparatus and to fund those operations. So that's the $260,000. And we've done that for this would be the 3rd year of kind of a 3-year plan that everyone was on board with. So that takes our adjusted loss to 192,000. So our first ask is a plug. First ask from the townships is a plug of 192,000. And I'm sorry, that's the total between the 2 townships. So your number that we're asking for would be about $58,000 to help plug that. The capital line below that, the loss of $105,000, that's a net number that would allow us to remount an ambulance. So what we do is, and this is all part of the apparatus replacement plan that we've shared with the townships for years, and this particular vehicle has been on it to be remounted for at least the last 6 years, and we do about every 8 or 9 years. So what we do is we take the big box that's on the back of the ambulance off of the chassis and remount it on another chassis. And that extends the life for roughly another 8 or 9 years versus buying a new ambulance. So it's a cost savings about 130,000 or so. So we put a deposit on this to do this in 2026. We put a deposit of 25,000 down in 2024. So that would be the second ask, that the townships, again, 105,000 net would be between the 2 townships. East Town's expense for that would be about $40,000. And then if you go to page 17, there's a couple more items.
Can you repeat again, what was the first expense for Easttown?
So it's plugging that $192,000
50.
total budget. So yeah, it's 58,000. So these were the near-term capital needs that we just shared with the working group about a week and a half ago. So that $130,000 for the ambulance remount, it's actually 105 when you net out. Tredyffrin had a $25,000 addition to the capital budget. So that's what the net is. The second piece there, that $250,000 for turnout gear and water rescue gear. The turnout gear is the fire gear that we wear that helps protect us in a fire. We've been asking for, we would like to provide a second set of turnout gear for the career staff. So we have 24 career staff now. They'll have one set of gear. When that gear gets fire debris on it, the carcinogens from that, it needs to be taken out of service and washed. And then while it's getting washed, they can't respond to a fire. So oftentimes with one set of turnout gear, they don't wash it till they're off one of their days off. So to kind of help prevent the exposure to carcinogens, we'd like to get them a second set of turnout gear. It allows them, when they come back from a fire, put that set of gear out of service, wash it, and then they're ready to respond to the next fire that they might have to go to that day with a clean set of turnout gear. So that's part of the 250. The second part is water rescue gear. We've got 15 career staff who are trained and certified in water rescue. We have 3 sets of gear. So 12 of our trained staff could not respond to water rescue. So we would like to buy water rescue gear for those trained staff and also for staff that want to get trained in water rescue. With the 3 who are trained and have gear, they all work different shifts. So we would not put them at risk because they don't have a partner for a water rescue. So that's what we're asking for there. The third is the Quint, which is a big ladder truck. We've been talking about this for years. It's been on our apparatus replacement plan for years. It's a $1.6 million price tag roughly. You know, the build time for one of those is 2 to 4 years. So that $1.6 million would not have to be available or spent next year. You can do several things. If you did buy a demo, then you need to have the money up front. But you could get loans for that. If you decided to build custom 2 to 4 years, you put a deposit down, which is roughly $250,000. And then you pay out, you know, when you take delivery of that vehicle. We actually had a $250,000 deposit in the budget for this year, for 2025. We ended up using that to buy a reserve ambulance because our 4th ambulance, which is a reserve ambulance, was not going to pass inspection. We didn't want to put more money into it. It's 20 years old, it's rusting out. So we took that money and used it for to buy a reserve ambulance. So the Quint was in the plans for this year. That money got reallocated to buy a reserve ambulance. We'd like it back in the apparatus replacement plan. So those are the 2 slides. I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
So what is the delta, at least for Easttown's portion,
So Easttown's portion,
between what
Yep.
we're proposing our budget and what you're asking?
yeah, I'll tell you. So what you're proposing is 651, is what I have, 651. The new items would be 171,000. So it's a 26% difference.
So an additional 171, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
So
That doesn't include anything on the Quint.
wait, 61, the total contribution from Easttown or 651?
651 is the total that we were told from Easttown.
Correct.
So that's just for when?
Oh, just for.
Also, right? It's also
Two
paid.
sorry, 2 per win.
Berlin.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't
'cause
know.
it sounds like.
So really what you're being asked about is 30% of 193 plus or minus. 30% of 193 for the operational deficit. If they can't close the operational deficit with the funds that you provide them, then their fund balance will go down by 193,000. If I'm
Correct.
say it wrong, then you tell me.
No, that's correct.
otherwise. The second item is 30% of 105. That's for your portion of the ambulance remount. The third one is 30% of 250. That's for a combination of the turnout gear and the water rescue gear. And at this point, it's just 100,000 for the truck for 30% of 250, correct? Meaning.
Correct, yes.
And you allocated that last year and it was diverted to the ambulance. So presumably you wouldn't write a check for the fire truck, you would put a deposit for 250 on it.
Right, if we do a
So
custom.
the ask would be 30% of 250.
So what was that total delta again? I'm sorry.
So 26% difference, so it's 171.
What is the firework group's recommendation in relation to what they're now asking for? This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Yeah, I let the lead before we got to that, so.
So the firework group recommended against each of these. So for the operational deficit, I'm only summarizing it. I'm not
Yeah,
endorsing it, I'm summarizing it. For the operational deficit, the opinion was that they have a fund balance eventually soon. You're gonna pay 100% of everything, so it doesn't, their opinion, not the fire department, that it's okay to let the fund balance go down from around 600 and some to around 400 and some. So that's a choice. If you don't give them that amount of money, then their fund balance will decrease. The firework group was comfortable with that. The second one was the ambulance. The fire work group had a difference of opinion with the opinion of the fire department on the capability of the ambulance you have now, or they have now, to serve as the ambulance. I can't speak to who was right or who's wrong. I don't know. Mike will have an opinion on that. I don't want to share that. But that was the determination of the fire work group was that the reserve ambulance is sufficient.
For the time being. I think that we agree that we wouldn't refurbish that other ambulance this year, but we might do it at a later time, but we would incorporate the new ambulance into more of the process.
Very good. And then on the turnout gear and the truck, the opinion was that these are determinations for the next chief, the next administrator, that not that these aren't things that aren't needed, but that a decision about them should be made when you have either the chief or the administrator in place.
So then a functional question, because this is not necessarily yet, but a by township, funding. Not agency, but at least for now, funding agreement. Let's say we say, yes, we're gonna write a check for the difference, for the delta that's being asked for Berlin. How does that work with the fire and EMS work group? Does Tridifferent, do they have to make a decision to fund the delta? If they don't fund the delta, now there's a partial funding, I just don't know how that works.
What you've done, you can give them anything you want for anything.
Fair.
So, what you've done in the past is you have agreed to it with Tridifferent through the work group.
Right.
And you've shared the costs. So, that's 500, 700, that's $800,000. That's a lot for you to absorb when what you've traditionally provided is 30% of that 800,000. So, I share your concern, Andrew. We did our best to not be here, to not be, it's the night you have something due. And by the way, how do you want to do this $800,000 choice? No one here on either side is responsible for how it just sort of worked out that way, unfortunately. So, here you are, the night when it's due, with an $800,000 gap between the fire company and the townships. And really arguably for many of you, it's the first time you've heard it.
Yeah, and Don, to that point, it wasn't the point to have a fire administrator to help kind of bridge that gap, and right now we
Yes,
don't have.
that's the logic of 3 and 4 in particular. Actually, it's the logic of really all 4 of them. But it's especially relevant to everybody needs gear, but we're not experts on gear. We want the fire administrator or the chief to advise us, and the same on the truck. So it's imperfect no matter what. Whatever decision you make is going to be with imperfection. You have to decide. My gut would tell me it's you communicating what you think you want, and then it becomes another round through the work group, correct, Michael? Do you think, Michael and Susan, like that would seem to be, if the opinion is, hey, the work group gave us some good advice, I think we gotta take the advice, it is what it is the budget, then I think you communicate that. If the opinion is, yeah, we're open to some things, then it's another pass through the work group.
Right, and again, I wouldn't take the work groups as a no kind of thing, it's more of a, now is not the right time. But a lot of these things we can do as part of the formation of the
They were definitely not full no's. They were just that maybe this isn't the right time.
And Andrew, when we talked, you were, I don't want to put words in your mouth or not, but you were comfortable with the ambulance was the one that had immediate. It got in front of the others. You had concerns about the same way we don't want our fund balance to go too low. You expressed concerns about the fund balance going too low.
Definitely have a concern about cash going too low. We've always set 500,000 as kind of the minimum we want to have, and obviously that if we use that cash, it's going to take us down to about 400,000. The ambulance, the ambulance that was purchased by Tredifferin is a reserve. It was purchased as a reserve ambulance, not a frontline ambulance. Mike can speak to the setup of the ambulance. We unfortunately were not consulted before that ambulance was purchased. We were told it was one thing, and it was even a different make of ambulance. It doesn't meet safety standards from 16 and 18. It's not configured like our other ambulances. I mean, I don't know, what else is there, Mike?
Did you share the list that I had sent with the supervisors or?
I think it went right to them, right?
Andrew, one question about the ambulance.
I'm not sure. Mike.
The ambulance was purchased summer, or is it?
So it's in the summer. I don't know.
It's not in service yet. I mean, it's still got. We picked the ambulance up maybe. Early September or
Just after
late.
dressage.
What was it?
It was just after dressage.
Okay, so September. So it needs a decent amount. It needed a decent amount of work in order to be able to get it licensed. But it's not done yet. It needs shelving. It needs things in order to get in service. But the primary issue with it is it's not safe. It's not a safe ambulance to put patients in. It's not a safe ambulance to put providers in as a frontline ambulance. I'm not sending that ambulance out 12, 13, 1,400 times a year in those type of conditions. It's not set up to be used that way. It was purchased to replace our 20-year-old van, which serves as a backup ambulance. So that van gets used when one of the 3 primary ambulances goes out of service, either for preventative maintenance or if something's wrong with it. It sits at the horse show for the standbys. It goes to the football games for standbys. That's the use of that ambulance, and that was what was purchased to replace it. The ambulance body that was purchased was manufactured somewhere between 2002 and 2006. So it's not designed with modern day standards. There's the seatbelts don't even have they're just lap belts. They don't even have. It's just overall, it's not a safe vehicle for me to put as a frontline ambulance. So the intent with that ambulance was that it replaced the reserve and it was gonna be used as a reserve. The ambulance that we're talking about tonight, that is to get remounted. The chassis is approaching 9 years old. And so it's starting to not do as well and cost a lot of money in maintenance. So what you do is you take the box off, like Andrew said, you put it on a new chassis. And that's how that replacement cycle goes, and we get 16 years out of the box. Rather than the 4 or 5, 6 years that we used to when we used to replace everything all at once. So what we, because of COVID and the manufacturer delays, it's a 2-year backlog. So we've been on a list now for a year and 4 months roughly. And we still have, it'll be July, August of next year when our turn finally comes up. So we basically, that deposit, bought ourselves a place in line in order to get this remount done. So I talked to the manufacturer, and like I explained to Don and Bill Martin, that the manufacturer is willing to push us back by 4 or 5 months to like January of 2027 without losing our spot in line, without charging us additional money for a 2027 chassis. So if the money isn't there in 2026, the option is 2027, but I need a commitment on that now, because otherwise we're gonna have, I have to give them that commitment now, or we're gonna do, basically, we have to pull ourselves out of line. And getting back in line is not something that's gonna be easy to do.
This kind of brings me back again to the idea of a fire administrator would be really helpful. I mean, I hear everything that's being said, but to me, I'm more inclined to follow the work group's recommendations at this point.
You guys know we don't have a fire administrator, right?
Yes.
Everybody's aware of that?
I guess my confusion is about this other ambulance, like, it just seems to not, like, we bought it and it doesn't work. Like, I don't really.
The first I heard was the last fire and EMS meeting.
Yes, and it's an accurate, it's very simplified, but basically that's what you're saying, correct? Meaning, the work group indicated you can use the ambulance, and the fire department is indicating you can't use the ambulance to do what the ambulance needs to do.
Right, the fire administrator told us that it could do what it's supposed to do, and we're now hearing it can't, so we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got just
So,
one
yeah,
little,
yeah.
Of all of these, that's $30,000, so you gotta remember that, that's, by that I mean, that's a relatively small amount of, on that first one, if you choose to not close the deficit, the consequence is there's a point at which they'll come to you and say, hey, we don't have any, something went up, this expense occurred, there's something went up, and you will have to do it. So if you choose not to meet the operating costs, there's some consequence that you could probably live with. I don't know what the consequence of the ambulance is, because I don't know enough about it for the reasons that Michael said. And then, you do have that element of choice with the gear and the truck. Do note that you did authorize a deposit last year for the truck.
Unrelated,
But that was transferred to the ambulance.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we were told, like, that was transferred, we didn't have to worry about it anymore, so that.
Yeah, but
Yes, okay.
expressly, when that transfer was made at a public meeting via vote.
Right.
And at that meeting, someone said, does this mean you'll have to put another $100,000 down for a truck? And the answer was yes. That the ambulance didn't negate the need for a truck. The ambulance delayed your choice to pay for the truck. Arguably, you have to pay for a truck eventually, whether
Yeah,
it's
right,
this
right,
year or
right.
next year.
Right, and
The work group's decision was next year is as good as this year.
do we have a similar delta with Paoli Fire Company? Or have we heard if there's a similar delta?
Yeah, so you've got I don't know if they also came in for asks, their asks were also very extensive. And their asks were also similar reaction to their asks. There's a modest amount that the work group recommended. they, some amount would be like $12,000 to you. For a retention program that they have. It hasn't been articulated. So it's not in your budget because it hasn't been articulated. But there's as I put in the packet and that you have like a $20,000 reserve in this fund intended to absorb that if you choose to. They have to articulate that, and then that would be a change at the next meeting.
So there might be a small delta, but it's not on the order of magnitude of what we're talking about.
Yeah, they expressed the same reservations, they're just not here tonight, representing them, but they also indicated they wanted 2 new firefighters, that was denied. Or recommended against for the same reason. They made some sizable asks for the building on the order of millions of dollars. It got the same reaction that at some point you should have an administrator or a chief, and that person should guide you through the decisions. The only one that came out of that group was the small allotment for the enhanced retention program.
I have a problem with the fire administrator argument because it just sounds like an excuse to not want to fund it right now. Like, well, we need more information, we gotta hold off, or we'll find out in the future, like, it always tends to, we're just gonna push it off, and then it becomes a bigger problem in the future. I'd rather we take smaller incremental steps to try and get them funded. And Don, that's not an item for you, I think it's a policy discussion, and the frustration that I have now is because this all goes through the work group that is a 2 township agency, we cannot unilaterally make a decision to, let me restate that. We can unilaterally just say, yes, let's close the budget gap over here, I agree with everything you're saying, and all 5 of us agree, off you go. Different might feel the opposite, and you're not getting the other 70% of the funding, so it doesn't necessarily close the gaps over here. I feel like I'm being held hostage to agree with the fire and EMS work group's decision, even though I don't necessarily agree with it. That's the problem that I have with this whole process.
The fire and EMS work group is unified in their decision, there's no wrong. Like, the fire, it's a very thoughtful decision.
Yeah, now, it is okay if you've, so my sense of this, and this is convoluted and there's no alternative to this. If 3 of you think that you should have an ambulance this year, then you gotta communicate that to Michael and Susan. And then Michael and Susan have to represent that to the work group. And ultimately you wanna try to convince Tridifferent that that's a priority for them also.
But is there even time to get that done this
Yeah.
year?
Yeah, because the work group is meeting in
The 20th.
the 20th, and this budget is finalized, and, I'm picking on the ambulance because it's
Yeah.
easy, it's $30,000 for you. So some of these others are bigger. But you gotta decide of the 4 that were represented to you. You have to decide as a group. Do you want to stay with the work group recommendation? Or do you wanna do all of them or none of them? I hear priority, I hear ambulance needs.
Well,
The reason for the ambulance to be more tangible than other ones, more immediate. And
thanks, Don.
it seems a little stronger too.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with following the work group's recommendation. It seems to be sound in nature, and I think they've contemplated these issues, so I'm comfortable following what they recommend.
Andrew, just to ask you a question, because I talked to Justin about this a little bit. And I've read some articles about it when it comes to the turnout gear. One of the things that I understood is that they could actually be putting on gear again that is already contaminated,
Oh, yeah.
and that puts their health and safety at risk.
So if they come out of a fire, the gear's contaminated.
Correct.
It's got carcinogens on it.
And if there's another fire, they may not have accurate time to decontaminate the,
Yeah, you gotta wash it and dry it.
Right.
Basically.
It's about a 6 to 7 hour minimum process to get the gear cleaned.
so how often does that happen? Do you say, is it 30% of the time, 10% of the time, do you have an idea?
I do not know.
Like,
I mean, it happens in enough, I don't have an exact number for you, I mean, I can tell you that. Probably about 10 to 15% of the calls involve carcinogens. you're not talking about full-fledged house fires, but any exposure to basically smoke becomes a exposure to carcinogens. So it could be a kitchen, food on the stove in like an apartment, and it's a very small fire, but the smoke is banked down to your knees, and you're in there for 4 or 5 minutes. You got to wash your gear after that. That's a contamination. So I mean, even as we're not talking about flames through the roof type house fire. You're talking about routine type things that get dealt with on a regular basis.
So even an example would be like asbestos. They get asbestos, you go in, can that be?
I mean, that's a different type of exposure, but sure, if you're crawling along a floor that's compromised and we're in an attic space that's got asbestos on all the pipes and stuff like that, just even doing an investigation. Yeah, any type of exposure, we have a gear washer in-house, and then we have a dryer in-house. And you wash your gear.
Those two things, I mean, obviously the ambulance concerns me, and because that's taking care of our residents. And, but the turnout gear definitely concerns me, because these are people putting their lives on the line, and I don't want them putting on gear that. When I talked to Justin and I understood his comment, that's why I was asking, because how often does this happen? If it's happening all the time, that concerns me a lot. If it's rarely ever happening, it still concerns me because they're putting it on anyway.
But it's not how often, it's also how many people, like if one person goes, can they put that person on hold? So until their equipment is back and they use all their people, there's things that you can do to mitigate it. And I'm not saying we should get the second.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, we should get the second set of gear, absolutely. But the committee thought we should wait, we should do it as part of the TE fire department, which means the next year. You guys have been in business for what, 100 and something years, with one set of turnout gear.
That's not fair. It's not fair.
What do you mean?
Well, because we're asking people to do things. So one of the things that got said a couple weeks ago in the meeting was the first time we're hearing about fire gear. But that's not really accurate. But what's happening here is that we've been working through things over the last 4 or 5 years. You guys have done significant improvements for our department, for TE as a whole. And understand that like now what's happening is that things that have been sort of unable to get to the forefront are now coming up higher in the prioritization list. So, we already had somebody that, cancer in the fire services is very, very high. And we're doing everything that we can to try to mitigate that. And so now that, a couple of things got checked off the list over the last couple of years, we have other things from a safety and prioritization that are moving up in the list. And that's why this is important to us to try to get it to the forefront. These things are expensive. We have no spare gear. The gear expires after 10 years too, which also makes this complicated, okay? Because it's a rolling thing that needs to be worked into this. So fire administrator, fire chief, or no fire chief, we're increasing our staffing and the number of people who are working by design. We're only halfway towards what we said the goal was for the number of people working at a time. So those numbers are going to continue to increase, and the costs in order to get those things, even at a baseline, just having one set of gear, that cost is going up, and the number of people you have to do that for is increasing. So we're trying to get these things. We had an extensive conversation with Director O'Leary over the gear. Director O'Leary promised our staff that next year they were going to get gear. Now, granted, I can't prove that because he's not in the room anymore. But that was very blatantly discussed with our staff in our staff meetings. And so we have no spare gear. All of the gear that we do have is expired, and we give that to brand new volunteers when they join so that they can get training. And Relief fortunately still buys gear for volunteers, but unfortunately we don't have millions and millions of dollars in Relief at this point either. So it's just, these are things that, all due respect to a fire administrator, fire chief, I'm feeling a little bit disrespected overall in this process after doing this for 29 years, that somebody else has to be the expert. We are trying to take care of our people, and we're trying to articulate of these needs, but we're not brought to the table to start having this conversation in July. This is why we're having this conversation tonight, and it's difficult. And I'm just trying to work through your process. And now the administrator's gone. We have no idea when that's gonna get replaced. We thought TEFD would be done, last year. So we have no idea what next year has in store for us yet, or what other things get prioritized. So we still have to work through the process of what our needs are. And, Chief Brundage, myself, Chief Brazunas, we spent a lot of time on trying to make sure we're articulating our needs and justifying our needs. It's not just being thrown at a wall for no reason, just because we want something. So.
Okay, so you gotta convert it all into action, so, one choice is accept the work group decision. Another choice is initiate your inclination that you want everything that, all four things that have been identified. Another is to communicate to the work group to look for compromises on some of the areas.
Right.
Absent you taking a decision, none of them are happening. They don't go into the budget until you decide to put them into the budget.
I'm in favor of finding the additional $171,000 delta and taking the request to Tridifferent to ask for them to pay their 70%, but it sounds like I might be in the minority. Curious what you guys think.
What's the 170 for?
171,000, that was the delta
Of what? You got
That's the
four,
total basket of all requests.
for when.
Minus the engine, right?
no, the total basket, to me, the total basket is 265. 30% of 195, around 59,000. 30% of 105, around 30,000.
39. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm taking on 130, so
Yeah.
105, you're right.
It's probably closer to 32 or something like that. 30% of 250, which is 75, right?
Yeah.
And 30% of 250, 100 for the deposit, whatever it was last time, so 100 last time.
Yeah, I didn't give you the deposit, the 100, so
Okay, so
171.
So 100 plus 75 plus 30 plus 60 is 265.
I'm sorry, 171 did not include what?
The deposit on the Quint.
So the ladder truck.
So they're asking you for $265,000 of your money more to do that. You would need Tridifferent to provide the 70%, which would be closer to 600,000 or change.
I don't understand how, I get we don't have a fire administrator. I don't understand how that would lead to, well, then we can't approve any of this.
It's
without
not,
that
that's
person.
not it, it's that we're in the process of creating a TE fire department, some of these things should be done as part of the TE fire department.
I mean, if Joe was still here, that would be happening.
Right.
He's not anymore.
That's what a kink in the way things are going.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kink. It's like we were working towards something and now it's,
But
And based on the last hiring process, you're probably 8 to 9 months away from having a fire administrator.
Understood. I would hate to halt this process of trying to fund this TE fire company to get it off the ground, to get it there, by saying we should hold off on any decision to fund additionally, and then their balance goes down, and then there's a much larger slug in the following budget or the budget after that, where there's a much more steep step to fund that. I feel like that's more catastrophic in my opinion. I feel like it's more reasonable to fund it now. We don't have TE fire department off the ground, we don't have a fire administrator. I think we see what the asks are right here. I think it's relatively simple to make a decision or not to fund it.
Michael, are you aligned to the work group?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, okay, very much so. So what you have is the two extremes, but not extreme by the bookends. And, I think it's we've heard Eric's indicated his alignment to the work group position. So, you know, we need to hear what Sean and
I
Susan.
mean, for me, I think I'm more in line with Alex. I don't really understand, I mean, I do, I understand the point of the work group. But I also understand the point of the needs of our township and our residents in our township. I don't know much about water rescue gear, so like, I know you mentioned the addition of water rescue gear. I didn't know if that was an immediate need. I do think turnout gear is an immediate need. I think the safety of your, you know, people who come and rescue people every day from fires is important, very important. The ambulance seems to be a necessity. I'm still a little confused as to why we got the other ambulance. I don't know why we bought something that doesn't work.
And nobody has that answer right now.
I mean, that seems.
It was a screw up. I mean,
Yeah, I
let's
mean,
put
it
that on the
seems like
table.
a
It was
bad
screw up
purchase.
by the townships. They did
And
not.
yeah, I would caution against.
Oh, yeah, I
calling it a
wouldn't
screw
say
up.
that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I
just
just,
say,
I don't-
no one has that answer right now.
yeah,
It's,
I just don't know the answer to
and
that.
nobody likes that outcome, so.
Yeah, and it's, yeah, so to me, you brought to the attention that when we made those decisions at the EIT meeting at Beaumont. Fire and rescue EMS was one of the number one things. I will say it wasn't the only thing, but it's a big part of what we were talking about. So I'm in line with Alex. I don't see why we have to hold back. I don't know if Tredyffrin will necessarily agree, but in my opinion, safety and the welfare of our residents comes first. So that's my opinion, and that's what I said at the meeting. I mean, that's why we got this money.
And before anything can go to Tredyffrin, you have to decide among the five of you.
Yeah.
So, Susan, we hate to put you on the spot, but how are you aligning in this? Are you?
You know, I have agreed with the fire decision. I'm happy to go forward, you know, back and say this is how we feel as a township. There's still Michael and I and Eric that think that the decisions are what they should be, but if you know, I'm certainly happy to take a minority. I think that Michael and I and Eric are also interested in the health and safety of our community. It's not like we're discounting that.
Right.
But I'm happy to go back to Tredyffrin and say, you know, we feel like this or we feel like that. But I do think that the ambulance that we're not using just seems to me as though we should sort of make it usable rather than purchasing a rehab for, you know, a refit or whatever for the other ambulance at this moment. Not that we couldn't do it next year.
So how about if Susan and I present the concerns that you guys have at the next meeting? For now, we won't. Unless we get Tredyffrin on board, there's really no point in us allocating the money, right? I mean, we could allocate the money now and then take it out, or we could not
I
allocate
mean,
it.
at a minimum, everyone gets their say, not necessarily their way. At a minimum, what you're gonna get is the representation of the counter argument and an evaluation if there's some kind of compromise. Compromise is what makes it all work. So, that seems to be for better and for worse, that seems to be the position at the moment, correct? Everyone has spoken, everyone's been heard. Okay, so unless you tell me otherwise, this seems settled for the moment, meaning that it's the consensus of the board at the moment to proceed with the work group recommendation. The counter argument to that.
Sorry, real quick, is that incorporated in the draft
Yes,
budget as
yes.
part of the agenda? tonight?
Yes, yes, so no change to the draft budget as it's represented.
It would be nice I'm sorry to interrupt, Don. It would be nice as a negotiating tool, particularly dealing with Tredyffrin, if we could say that this is a priority and this is less of a priority, so we can fight for maybe something that's the most important for Berwyn Fire Station.
Okay, I think that's valuable, and my gut would tell me that you could provide that offline.
Okay.
And then, so, not saying it's perfect, but it is what, the board's majority has spoken, the board's minority opinion has been heard, it will be represented. And it's not being represented as a tough luck, you all, it's being represented as, let's reevaluate and maybe there's an opportunity for compromise.
We have a minority position that's very strongly feels this way.
Yeah.
Is how it will come across.
And it's a call to action. It's not just, hey, we want to tell you that some of our members feel strongly. It's, we want to tell you that some of our members feel strongly, and is there an opportunity for compromise?
Are concerned about the implications of not
Yeah,
doing this now.
but-
Yes.
Key is it with an action, not just having your opinion represented. You want your opinion represented, and you're proposing the opportunity for a compromise. For
Yes.
something more than what is in the current version. Okay.
Don, if the board moves forward with the preliminary budget as it is, to advertise it, this week. In order to stay on track, so basically, it's gotta be a public document for 20 days. That's where that 25% in a major category comes in, or 10% overall. If you trigger that between preliminary and final, you've gotta advertise for another 10 days. So right now, if you acted tonight and the preliminary budget got advertised this week, you'd be on track to approve a final budget maybe as early as December 1. That's the first meeting.
Yes.
If I'm looking at the numbers right, just so you know what that percentage means. And Don and John, tell me if I have this right. For the fire fund out of real estate, it's almost 862,000 proposed. For the fire fund out of EIT, it's about 590. It gets you the total fire fund budget, according to my math, is $1,451,000. So 25%, if that's the major category you have, if you had to have it, you'd have about $350,000 to work with. 25%. That would be the maximum up or down in either direction. Just, you want to be comfortable that you're within those parameters. Otherwise, you have to keep in mind, you might go late into December if you had to re-advertise the preliminary budget.
Yeah, so I think all that's all in my head when I'm presenting to you what your options are, that the thing, even the collection of things that were identified at 30% is less than that number, so that makes it okay.
You have a safe harbor to have.
Yeah, you have safe harbor, and then you also, purposefully, we set this up for December 1st. I don't want to do it on December 15th. I really want to do it on December 1st. But you have, you won't let the bureaucratic dog wag the good choice. You'll make the right decision, and we'll figure out a way to make the right decision. So as it stands now, your position will be represented to the work group as a request for a willingness, a sense of compromise. We'll get some prioritization from the fire department. And then at the next meeting, we'll come back to you with the results of that. And this will be another difficult decision. It's not easy, it'll get harder at the next meeting because it will be binding at the next meeting.
So you're saying if changes are made, it's another 10 days on top of it?
If
It's
only
keep
if
those
you
limits.
change beyond that 25%.
Oh, beyond that, okay.
But you're not gonna change.
Yeah.
So
okay,
everything I'm hearing right now, and I think
Yeah.
Don is confirming, is you'll be within those parameters.
And the only way that you're gonna get outside that is if you choose to go outside of Tradifrin, which would be a bit radical of your moment.
No, we would only fund our 30% part of
Yeah,
it.
which we just added up to 265.
So you'd be within the band.
Right, the only issue would be if we decide to do the same thing with payola, then we'd be outside of it.
Yeah, well. then-
Right, I'm counting
if-
350,000 out of your entire fire.
And if you choose to do the same thing with Paoli, then the whole thing shuts down, and this will happen in April of next year, because Paoli hasn't articulated things.
Right.
So if you decide that if you give a penny to Berwin, you have to give a penny to Paoli, then the whole thing is off the table, and we'll do this by July of next year kind of thing. So probably not. Probably best to answer Paoli's concerns, decide yes or no on them, answer Berwin's concerns, say yes or no on them. Yeah. Okay, anything else, fellas? So you were heard. I know you were
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
I still leave here maybe discouraged, but maybe a little less discouraged, not sure, but thanks for hearing it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Are there any other comments on the draft budget?
I had one other item, general question about the playgrounds. So if we wanna, if I was in favor of renovating the playground equipment that's at both parks. Ballpark, amount that it would cost, I know it could be crazy, Cadillac, Chevy, how much would it cost for both of them? And what mechanism do we have in order to get that done? Is that something that could be bond funded?
Yeah.
Or we gotta get that in this budget right here, we all.
I'll give you my answer, then I'll let John give you his answer. In Radnor, we did this once, it was 2.3 million for one of the parks.
And you have awesome parks in Radnor. by the
Yeah,
way.
it's some pretty good parks.
Yeah.
And it was it turned it was like when it was done, it was the picture of the catalog and the kids looked like they were having fun. Another project was just the gear itself, that was 600,000. You paid for a piece of gear. That was 75, that had some controversy, some people hated it. So you get that scale, 75, 80 gets you a piece of gear, 600 gets you a pavilion, 2.5 gets you a whole new park.
Right.
I would say that would represent the scale. Your building is moving toward a borrowing, you can't build the building without borrowing.
Right.
And to me, if you want something on that scale, it becomes pretty logical to borrow at that scale and do that. And then arguably, you've got some things going on with the campus, with the building that, you're gonna hear about in 2 days, and the group will hear about shortly once, that maybe it fits in nicely then. So, right now, all you got is 50 grand in there, which is letting you buy, a small piece of equipment, fix things, that sort of thing. You don't have enough for any comprehensive redo. John, that was a lot of talking from me, compliment it, provide some color to it.
I think from conversations with you, Alex, I think 500 is probably the floor of where you'd be looking for something that you'd be excited by. And then I would tie it into a bond that we can discuss further.
And you don't have 500 in this,
Right,
at this
so-
point.
And 500 might not impress you.
Yeah.
When we look at these types of installations, it's usually like your labor and installation is usually matched to your material because you have to have certified installers and all that stuff. Insurance reasons, you're never gonna skimp on that. The nice thing is these products have a very long lifetime. But I would figure 500 is really the floor for what we exactly as a playground.
Okay, understood. The reason why this comes up is, I've brought it up before, all our playground equipment is from 1998 vintage thereabouts. I mean, they're coming up on 30 years old. It's not that they don't work anymore, but they are old, they're out of date. They can use a
Paint is coming off, yeah.
paint's coming off, there's rubber shavings under the swing sets and stuff, like it's due for a refresh, and like, I'm not saying we have to copy exactly what Radnor has done, because they spent a boatload on it, but boy, is it awesome and a lot of fun, and gets a lot of use, whereas our playground does not get nearly as much use, I think. Build it and they will come, and it's more of an attraction, just an opinion.
All right.
I have some thoughts about, and I think the Parks and Rec Committee did as well, that they were thinking of maybe leaving the equipment that's there, that's 20 years old, that's still functional, and the kids use it pretty readily. I've been there many times in the last couple of months, but building possibly another piece of equipment or having another piece of equipment beside it, getting rid of possibly the volleyball courts in Johnson's Park and having a piece of equipment over there that's for older kids. I could see that happening, but I think that just getting rid of the 20-year-old equipment that's in perfect condition, I'm not sure that I think that that's such a great idea when it's still, I don't know. I think that there's a possibility of using the volleyball courts better.
And you would need, you're not in a position to do that this year because you haven't thought about it enough as a community. Like that would be to take 2025, 2026, and you figure out what you want to do in 2027.
So that was gonna be my next question, was if we can't put it in this budget, which sounds like it's probably an order of magnitude that's above what we are comfortable doing right now. But if we wanted to take this upcoming year to plan that out, is that all done at the Parks and Rec level, staff level, and our level, or is that something that we should get a consultant, put some dollars?
I think it's
in there for
something that you communicate to us, that's a priority for you, and John and I figure out how to implement it, so.
So no need to put additional funding in the budget. for
Well, you
this.
got $50,000 in there, you know, so
You
that can go toward things if you need it to go toward things, so. What,
For this type of installation, you don't need to get an outside consultant, we can bring in, that's what the sales
The
reps.
vendors, they come
Right,
in.
so
they-
the vendors have local home offices, they will come up and if you tell them that you have a 50 by 50 square that you're looking to do upright, they're gonna come with as many options as you'd like to see.
Fair.
That's and we go to, there's 2 or 3 vendors tops that we would look at, cause there's just not that many vendors that, you'd want playground equipment from. So you wouldn't have to put in planning, engineering, study money in.
Got it.
We can come to you with, if you tell us what real estate's available, they'll be happy to show you some very pretty pictures of what will fit there. We did, after the last meeting or one of the last Parks and Recs meetings, we did reach out to our representative who is still the original guy who sold us the original sets. All of the playground equipment that you bought had a 100-year warranty on the main core structures. So you have elements like the plexiglass that's going to wear out, it's gonna scratch. But all of your core elements are 100-year warranties, so the paint is gonna chip off a little bit, but that just is, that's signs of use in a good way, not neglect in a bad way.
Yeah, it's not that the steel is rusted and dangerous and. it's
Everything's
gonna kill
very,
somebody, it's
yeah,
safe.
and we inspect that, regularly, all that is
Right.
kept an eye on.
It's not dangerous, it's not unsafe, it's just,
There is shinier
And-
objects out there.
right, and it's, in my opinion, due for a refresh.
the
and-
kids in the catalog look like they're having a lot of fun.
Well, they sure do.
Yeah.
And you see those giant slides they have, I'll have some fun going down those things too, with my kids. Anyway, my point is, it sounds like probably not in this budget, but I'm gonna state and claim early that I'd like to include it in next year's budget, so I want us to
So the
start
big
thinking
thing
about
is you,
this.
and I would say you want it to come, either organically from your board down to the Park and Rec board at the directive, or organically up from the Park and Rec board, but it's used 26 to evaluate in concept the sort of thing and the location, and then it's a choice for 27, whether it's a budgeted line item or rather a bonded item or a non-bonded item.
So we have trail planning in here, so that's gonna move forward. We have sidewalk projects that are in various states of, construction, design, planning, that's all good. This is the other one that I kind of wanna help to spearhead as well. So I've already spoken to you guys about it at the staff level over the last year or so. So I'm gonna get serious about it this upcoming year. I'm gonna try and
All right,
get some
sounds
action
good.
here, so commitment from me. So I guess no change in the budget, but staking a claim, I'm gonna start pushing it.
Okay, are there any other board comments about the budget? Okay, any public comment? Okay, so I guess a motion to approve.
If the board is ready, I might suggest a motion based on where I think you are. Which would be a motion to advertise the preliminary budget. With one addition, and that would be to add $93,000 to the historical commission line item. To be incorporated by the manager based on the allocations discussed. And then part two, not a change, but that the fire working group representatives will revisit the Berwick Fire Company request for additional funding, with the caveat that East Town's position would be that between preliminary and final, everything has to stay within those budget revision limitations under the second-class township code. And I think that would be your motion unless I'm missing something.
So moved. Yes, that's. A second?
I'll second.
And you do wanna, now that you made a motion, second, if you don't mind doing the public comment one more time.
Yep, there
because
is
that's
public
the action
comment.
on the floor.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passed.
And I understand from Don that the timing goal then would be to act on the final budget at the first Monday meeting in December, which is December 1st. And we'll work with staff to get the preliminary budget out.
Okay, moving on to reports, manager, assistant manager, Tom, anything you want to add to it?
I have nothing to add beyond what's written. If you have questions, let me know.
Questions on the board? John, anything to add?
Not unless there's any additional information the board would like.
Any questions from the board or any of the manager, assistant manager, memos, reports? No, okay. All right, moving on to regular business, the wild feeding prohibition ordinance. Eric, you want to take that on?
Sure, I'll probably just kick it to Andy in a second, but I know some residents had approached the board via email regarding issues with other residents feeding deer. Obviously, deer pose a significant threat to public safety when they're in the roadway. And I think it would probably be a good idea to have some sort of guidance for the public in relation to feeding deer, just to make sure that, you know, we're not enticing deer into the roadways in any way. And Andy was kind enough to draft up an ordinance to that effect. And I think it's something we should consider as a board, just, you know, for health and safety purposes.
And our senior associate, Rob Jefferson, is here tonight, helped me survey the field from the complex to the simple prohibition on deer feeding. What we try to do is keep it as simple as possible. It would be a non-zoning ordinance, so you could put it into place quickly. If you approved advertising tonight, we could have it ready for action at your next meeting on November 17th. We sort of generically prohibit feeding of deer, and we don't get into every way that may happen. Sometimes you see people putting out salt licks or baiting areas for hunting purposes. So we very broadly ban that, but then we make sure that there are exceptions to things that happen on everybody's lots, large or small. So if you've got plants, trees, or shrubs that have fruit vegetation in the air or on the ground, and that's all, you know, just happening by the nature of those plants and shrubs growing, there's nothing wrong with that. If your nuts fall to the ground and the deer eat them, you're not in trouble. Similar with like garden plants, any kind of crops, agricultural crops. We also exempt bird feeders because sometimes deer like those, but people feed birds, lots of people feed birds. And similar to any livestock, or we talk about feeding troughs, and it's really designed for agriculture, but also domesticated animals. So if you have a dog that spends, or a cat that spends time outside, and you have dog food or cat food in a dish, you're also not in trouble for that. What we're looking for is to stop anybody who is actively and affirmatively trying to feed deer, because we have enough problems on the roadway with safety already.
All right, any board comment?
So salt licks are excluded? See, I see the word salt in definition of feeding. So somebody putting out a salt lick.
Yeah, that would be right, but,
Okay.
and so we went through, do you define every mechanism
Right.
of feeding, or we
I
decide?
just make sure, I know people, I know people near me who put out salt licks for deer, so.
Yeah.
It happens.
That would be prohibited under.
Right,
this
right.
ordinance, yeah.
And on private property, like, Ted Lasso, that's something, Ted, what's his name? Right, he has a big property where people hunt. Is he not allowed, he's not allowed to put out food to entice the deer for hunting purposes?
Well, you would, if it's done in a way that it's visible to an officer, and under this, police officers, code enforcement officers, or animal control officers could enforce. you wanna be careful, we're not regulating hunting, but we are regulating the feeding of the deer. So if something is deep in an agricultural property, the odds are it's not gonna be visible in such a way that the township could enforce it, and we're not gonna go out and get ordinances to enter. I'm sorry, to get warrants.
We're not gonna go low, right? And people would have to complain, right? So if somebody does it on their half-acre yard,
Normally, that's how it would happen, right?
right, if they're doing it on their half-acre yard,
Very
it would
attention to
see.
township, right?
But Ted's property is, what, I don't know, 40 acres or something. If he's doing in the middle, nobody's gonna notice. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how this works. I'm not advocating for shooting deer or anything. But I know it happens.
Is there any other board comment? Okay, so. Motion is to approve advertising an ordinance to prohibit the feeding of deer in Easttown Township and to prepare documentation for final board consideration action at a subsequent public meeting. Do I? Second,
I'll second that.
okay, we have a public comment? Do you want? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to just emphasize, even the state's game commission, we spoke to them and their website backs up. I mean, there's a myriad of reasons why, we shouldn't be feeding wild animals. Creates quite a bit of a nuisance, especially when it starts to attract. I mean, just in our neighborhood alone, the attraction in the evening of not 1, 2, 3, but tens of deers are prancing through our neighborhood going to eat, and then they leave. It's almost like as if somebody's ringing a bell. But obviously, the disease, risk to the environment. It's not good for the animals either, that they become dependent upon human feeding. I appreciate you all for considering this.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, so all of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
We'll get it advertised, thanks.
So, moving on to public comment. Any public comment about anything? Okay. Upcoming meetings and events are listed on the township website. And do I have a motion? Oh, are we going to exec?
Yes.
So we'll be doing.
I think we're discussing personnel and litigation.
Okay, so we'll be doing exec session afterwards, personnel and litigation,
Where's the state?
and real estate and litigation personnel. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So. Yeah, I do.